The plea that echoed across the stars. The Eridani homeworld glittered like an azure jewel against the velvet backdrop of space. For millennia, their civilization had flourished in harmonious balance with the natural rhythms of their world. Crystal spires reached toward distant stars, while beneath them, a society devoted to knowledge, art, and peaceful exploration thrived. The Eridani, with their translucent skin that captured and refracted light in mesmerizing patterns, had built a utopia based on cooperation rather than competition. They had no concept of war. The Skarax Armada arrived without warning. Their massive warships eclipsed the twin suns of the Eridani system, casting long shadows across the once bright world. The Armada came not to trade or to learn, but to conquer and strip the planet of its resources. Their soldiers, encased in black chitinous armor that mirrored their insectoid heritage, poured from transport vessels like a plague of locusts. First Elder Lyra stood in the central chamber of the Grand Archive, surrounded by the remaining council members. Through the crystalline dome above, they could see the flash of weapons fire as another district fell. The Eridani's peaceful technology had been repurposed for defense as best they could manage, but against an enemy evolved for conquest, their efforts were woefully inadequate. "We have lost contact with the southern continent," reported Second Elder Tellin, his skin pulsing with patterns of distress. "Our people are being systematically eliminated or captured. The Skarax leave nothing living in their wake." "Our diplomatic envoys?" asked Lyra, though she already knew the answer. "Executed the moment they approached," Tellin replied, his voice breaking. The Skarax commander transmitted only one message: surrender unconditionally or be eradicated. Lyra's gaze swept around the chamber, taking in the faces of her fellow elders. Fear was evident in the rapid color changes rippling across their skin, but beneath that fear was something more profound, a deep sorrow for the end of everything they had built. "Then we have but one option remaining," she said quietly. "The emergency beacon." A murmur spread through the remaining council members. The emergency beacon was a technology developed generations ago, but never used, a quantum signal designed to penetrate vast distances of space, carrying a distress call to any who might hear it. "But who would come?" asked Elder Ven. "The nearby systems are either primitive or already fallen to the Skarax. We have no allies capable of standing against such a force. We send it not to those we know," Lyra replied, her skin taking on a deep blue hue of determination. "We send it to those we don't. The galaxy is vast. Perhaps somewhere, someone will hear our plea." With reluctant consensus, the elders activated the ancient technology. The beacon pulsed outward, carrying with it the desperate cry of a dying civilization. "Our people face extinction. If there is compassion among the stars, help us." The message hurtled through space, skipping across dimensions, passing countless worlds and species. Most ignored it. Some received it but chose safety over intervention. The Skarax Armada was known and feared throughout this arm of the galaxy, and few were willing to challenge their might. But the signal traveled farther than the Eridani had ever explored, reaching into a region of space unknown to them. A region protected by ships bearing the insignia of a blue and green world called Earth. The UNSS Harbinger drifted at the edge of human-controlled space, maintaining a silent vigil over the border regions. Unlike the sleek exploratory vessels of the fleet, the Harbinger was a predator. All sharp angles and matte black hull plating designed to absorb rather than reflect sensor scans. It was officially classified as a rapid response vessel, but those who served aboard her knew the truth. The Harbinger was a warship, pure and simple, designed for one purpose only. Commander Alexis Riker stood on the observation deck, staring out at the distant stars. At 43, she had spent more than half her life in military service, bearing the scars of conflicts most of Earth's population never heard about. Her close-cropped silver hair framed a face etched with lines of experience, but it was her eyes that most unnerved those who served under her. Cold, calculating, and utterly uncompromising. "Commander," came a voice from behind her. "We've intercepted something." Unusual. Riker turned to face her communications officer, Lieutenant Chenwei. In his hand was a data tablet, its screen displaying a complex waveform. "Define unusual, Lieutenant," she said, taking the tablet. "It's a signal unlike anything in our databases, ma'am. Definitely not human in origin, and not matching any known non-human communications either." Wei hesitated. The quantum signature suggests it traveled an enormous distance, possibly from beyond the Sagittarius barrier. That caught Riker's attention. Humanity had yet to successfully navigate beyond the radiation clouds of the Sagittarius barrier. What lay beyond was the subject of much speculation but little concrete knowledge. "Translation?" she asked, examining the waveform. "Dr. Nakamura's been working on it for the past hour. The linguistic structure is complex, but the central message seems clear enough. It's a distress call." Riker's expression didn't change, but something shifted in her posture. "Bring us to alert status. I want a full briefing in 10 minutes." The briefing room of the Harbinger held 6 individuals, the core of Riker's command team. Dr. Sakura Nakamura, the ship's xenolinguistics specialist, stood before a holographic projection of the signal. "The message contains extensive data beyond the distress call itself," she explained. "Star charts, basic mathematical principles, presumably to help us locate them and establish communication. And this," she gestured, and the projection changed to show an image of graceful, luminous beings standing amidst crystalline architecture. The Eridani, as they call themselves. Their civilization appears highly advanced, though with a focus on theoretical knowledge rather than military technology. "And who are they fighting?" asked Major Jackson, the leader of the ship's special operations team. Dr. Nakamura switched the display again. The image that appeared showed a nightmarish contrast to the Eridani, heavily armored insectoid creatures moving with military precision through burning ruins. "They call them the Skirax Armada. From what I can gather, they're an expansionist empire with a strict hierarchical structure. Their technology seems to be on par with our most advanced systems, possibly superior in some respects." "So why haven't we encountered them before?" asked Chief Engineer Petrov. "The signal originated from approximately 30 light-years beyond the Sagittarius barrier," Dr. Nakamura replied. "No human vessel has successfully penetrated that far into unexplored space." A heavy silence fell over the room as the implications became clear. Responding to this distress call meant venturing into completely unknown territory, potentially facing a superior enemy force, and interfering in a conflict between 2 alien species, all to save beings they had never met. "Even if we wanted to help," said Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez, the ship's tactical officer, "the Harbinger isn't an exploration vessel. We're not equipped for barrier penetration." "Actually," Petrov interjected, "our new shield modifications might be able to handle it. The theoretical models suggest we could manage a controlled transit, though I wouldn't recommend lingering in the barrier itself." All eyes turned to Commander Riker, who had remained silent throughout the briefing. She studied the images of the Eridani and the Skirax, her expression unreadable. "What do we know about Skirax tactics?" she finally asked. Rodriguez consulted his tablet. "From the information embedded in the signal, they appear to use overwhelming force, superior numbers, and terror as their primary strategies. They don't negotiate or take prisoners except for slave labor. Their command structure is rigid, with a clear chain of authority flowing downward from their hive commanders." Riker nodded slowly. "Centralized command, rigid hierarchy, predictable tactics." A cold smile touched her lips. "They've never faced humans before, have they?" "No, ma'am," confirmed Dr. Nakamura. "The signal suggests this is a first contact scenario for the Eridani, and there's no indication the Skirax have encountered our species. Then they have no idea what they're in for." Riker straightened. "Lieutenant Wei, send a message to Fleet Command informing them of our discovery and our intention to investigate. Use the diplomatic first contact protocols as justification." "Ma'am," Rodriguez said carefully, Fleet Command will never authorize a combat mission beyond the barrier based on an alien distress call. I'm not asking for authorization, Lieutenant Commander. I'm informing them of our decision, as per first contact protocols, which give commanders discretion when encountering new species. Her gaze swept the room. By the time they process our message and send a response, we'll be through the barrier and out of communication range. That's stretching the protocols considerably, Commander, said Dr. Nakamura. Perhaps, but I didn't sign up to sit on the sidelines while an innocent species is exterminated. Riker's voice hardened. Chief Petrov, how soon can you have the shield modifications ready for barrier transit? The engineer considered. 6 hours, minimum. 8 to be safe. You have 5. Major Jackson, I want your team prepped for potential ground deployment. We don't know what we'll find on the other side, but I want us ready for any scenario. As the team dispersed to their tasks, Dr. Nakamura lingered behind. Commander, may I speak freely? Riker nodded. We know nothing about these species beyond what was contained in the message. This could be a trap, or we could be interfering in a conflict we don't understand. The Prime Directive applies to developing civilizations, Dr. Riker interrupted, not to advanced species literally begging for help against genocide. She turned to face the scientist directly. But that's not your real concern, is it? Nakamura hesitated. The Skarax, if their technology is as advanced as the message suggests, we could be outmatched. The Harbinger is formidable, but we're still just one ship. Riker's expression softened slightly. Did you ever study old Earth military history, Doctor? Not extensively. Throughout human history, conflicts have rarely been decided by who had the superior technology or the larger force. They've been decided by who had the will to do whatever was necessary to win. Riker turned back to the holographic display of the Skarax troops. These creatures may have never encountered a species like us, one forged through millennia of warfare against ourselves and our environment, one that doesn't fight according to predictable patterns or rigid hierarchies. The commander's eyes had taken on that cold, calculating look that her crew had learned to both respect and fear. The Skarax may have superior firepower, Dr. Nakamura, but I'm betting they've never faced an enemy who excels at asymmetric warfare, and that's going to be their downfall. 5 days later, the Harbinger emerged from the Sagittarius barrier, its shields radiating excess energy as they cooled from the passage. The ship had survived the crossing, though not without cost. 2 crew members injured during a particularly violent radiation surge and significant strain on the vessel's power systems. Status report, Riker demanded as she entered the bridge. Shields at 30% and recovering, reported Lieutenant Costa from the engineering station. Weapons systems unaffected. Sensors coming back online now. Any sign of the Eridani homeworld? Correlating the star charts from their message with our current position, said Navigator Okafor. If my calculations are correct, their system should be there. She pointed to a bright point on the stellar map. Distance. Approximately 6 light hours at our maximum sustainable FTL velocity. Set course, maximum speed. Lieutenant Wei, prepare a response to the Eridani signal. Let them know help is coming. As the Harbinger accelerated toward the Eridani system, Riker called Major Jackson to her ready room. What's the status of your team, Major? Jackson was a compact, muscular man with the calm demeanor of someone who had seen too much combat to be easily rattled. Ready and eager, Commander. We've run simulations based on the Skarax physiology data from the Eridani transmission. If their armor has vulnerable points, my people will find them. I'm not planning a frontal assault, Riker said. This isn't about matching them strength for strength. With respect, Commander, that's what we do. We hit hard, and we hit fast. Not this time. Riker activated a holographic display on her desk, showing the Eridani planetary system. We're one ship against what appears to be an entire invasion fleet, but that's not as disadvantageous as it might seem. Jackson raised an eyebrow. How you figure that, ma'am? The Scaraks came prepared to fight the Eridani, a peaceful species with minimal defensive capabilities. They didn't come prepared to fight us. A cold smile touched Riker's lips. And more importantly, they don't know that we're coming. The Eridani capital city was burning. Elder Lyra and the few remaining council members had retreated to the underground chambers beneath the Grand Archive, ancient shelters built during the early days of their civilization, when the Eridani still remembered the concept of conflict. The northern continent has fallen, reported a young messenger, her skin flickering with patterns of exhaustion and fear. The Scaraks are systematically destroying all resistance. Their commander has announced that surviving Eridani will be processed for labor camps by tomorrow's rise of the first sun. And still no response to our beacon? Asked Lyra, though she already knew the answer from the despair evident in the faces around her. None, First Elder, the messenger confirmed. The communications array was destroyed in the last bombardment. But before it fell, there was no indication that. A sudden commotion from the entrance to the chamber interrupted her. Guards moved to protective positions around the elders as the heavy doors swung open to reveal an Eridani scout, his skin pulsing with an emotion Lyra couldn't immediately identify. First Elder, he gasped, something has entered our system, a vessel of unknown configuration, moving at incredible speed. The Scaraks reinforcements? Asked Elder Tellin, his voice hollow. No, the scout replied, his skin now clearly showing patterns of confusion. And could it be hope? It's responding to our beacon. They say they've come to help. Before anyone could respond, a new voice spoke, emanating from a small device the scout held in his hand. The words were in perfect Eridani language, though with an unusual cadence. This is Commander Alexis Riker of the United Nations Spaceship Harbinger. We received your distress call and have come to render assistance. Please provide coordinates for secure communication and potential rendezvous. We are approaching your system now. For the first time in days, the patterns on Lyra's skin shifted from the deep indigo of despair to the soft gold of cautious hope. Tell them, she said, her voice steady despite the emotion flooding through her, that we welcome their aid, though I fear they do not understand what they face. A harbinger entered the Eridani system under stealth protocols, its advanced cloaking technology masking its approach from Scarak sensors. From orbit, the devastation was clearly visible. Cities burning, massive Scaraks warships positioned in low orbit, and constant shuttle traffic as ground forces were deployed to crush the last pockets of resistance. They're not even bothering with proper perimeter security, noted Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez, studying the sensor readouts. Multiple blind spots in their orbital coverage, minimal point defense activation. They're completely confident in their dominance. Overconfidence, Riker said with satisfaction, is exactly what we're counting on. Have you located the Eridani resistance contact point? Yes, Mom. Hidden facility approximately 3 kilometers beneath the surface of their capital city. Heavily shielded against detection, but our quantum resonance scanners picked up the signal. And the Scaraks command center. Rodriguez highlighted a massive structure near the center of the ruined Eridani capital. Their main operations hub, according to the Eridani data. The Hive commander is likely coordinating from there. Riker nodded, her mind already calculating trajectories, timing, vulnerabilities. Prepare a stealth shuttle for Major Jackson's team, and have Dr. Nakamura join me in the communications center. It's time to introduce ourselves to the Eridani Council, and to plan how we're going to turn the tide of this invasion. As the crew moved to execute her orders, Riker allowed herself a brief moment of reflection. What she was about to do went well beyond her official mandate. If they succeeded, she would likely face a court-martial upon their return. If they failed, none of them would return at all. Yet as she studied the images of burning Eridani cities and the methodical destruction of a peaceful civilization, Riker felt a cold certainty settle over her. The Scaraks had never faced humans before. They had no idea what they had inadvertently awakened by drawing the attention of humanity's most dangerous warriors. That ignorance was about to cost them everything. When prey becomes predator. First Elder Lyra had never seen beings like these humans before. They stood in the underground chamber, smaller than the Eridani, yet somehow occupying more space through sheer presence. Their skin was opaque and unchanging, a disconcerting trait to the Eridani, whose emotions flowed across their translucent epidermis in waves of color. 5 humans had made the dangerous journey to the hidden sanctuary: Commander Riker, Dr. Nakamura, Major Jackson, and 2 soldiers whose names Lyra could not pronounce. They wore dark, form-fitting garments that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, and they carried strange devices that the Eridani instinctively recognize as weapons. "Your arrival is unexpected," Lyra admitted, her skin cycling through patterns of gratitude, confusion, and lingering fear. "But we feared our beacon would go unanswered." "Many likely heard it," Commander Riker replied through the translation device. "We were simply the only ones willing to act." The human's directness was startling to Lyra. The Eridani communicated with layers of nuance, both verbal and chromatic. These humans spoke with a bluntness that bordered on aggression. "You have our deepest gratitude," said Elder Tellin, "but I fear you do not comprehend the might of the Skarax Armada. Our own defenses were considerable, yet they fell within days." "Your single vessel will be more than sufficient," interrupted Major Jackson. The human male displayed none of the patterns that would indicate doubt or hesitation in an Eridani. Instead, his stance radiated a controlled tension that reminded Lyra of a coiled spring. Commander Riker stepped forward, activating a small device that projected a 3-dimensional image of the Eridani capital and surrounding territory. "We've analyzed the Skarax deployment patterns. Their tactics are efficient but predictable. They focus on overwhelming force rather than strategic flexibility." "That is an accurate assessment," confirmed Lyra. "They advance with methodical precision, annihilating all resistance before moving to the next sector." "Classic occupation strategy," Riker nodded. "Designed for fighting conventional forces on open terrain. Unfortunately for them, that's not what they'll be facing now." The human commander manipulated the holographic display, highlighting key points throughout the city. "Your people still have hidden resistance cells, correct?" "Yes, though they can do little but delay the inevitable. Our weapons cannot penetrate Skarax armor, and their biosensors can detect Eridani life signs at considerable distances." A smile appeared on Riker's face that sent an involuntary shiver through Lyra's body. It contained no warmth, only a predatory anticipation that the First Elder had never witnessed in any sentient being. "They can detect Eridani," Riker said, "but they've never encountered humans before. They don't know our biosignature. They don't know our capabilities. And most importantly," her smile widened, "they don't know our history." Lyra's skin shifted to a questioning azure. "Your history?" Dr. Nakamura, the smallest of the humans, and the only one who seemed to understand Eridani chromatic communication, responded with gentle tones. "Unlike your people, who evolved toward peace and cooperation, humans emerged from millennia of conflict. Our early development was characterized by constant warfare, forcing us to become extremely adaptive and creative in how we fight." "You speak as if this is something to be proud of," said Elder Ven, his skin flushing with disapproval. "It is neither source of pride nor shame," Dr. Nakamura replied. "It is simply what shaped us, and today it may be what saves you." Major Jackson stepped forward. "My team will coordinate with your resistance cells. We need to know every access tunnel, maintenance shaft, and underground passage in the city. The Skarax believe they're fighting a conventional war against a defeated enemy. We're going to introduce them to something they've never experienced before: asymmetric warfare." "I don't understand," said Lyra. Commander Riker's expression hardened. "We're going to teach your people how to be guerrillas, Elder Lyra. How to strike without warning and disappear before retaliation. how to sow confusion and fear among an occupying force, how to make the enemy afraid of shadows. The concept was so alien to the Eridani mindset that Lyra struggled to comprehend it. The Eridani had no word for guerrilla or insurgency. Their ancient conflicts had been formal affairs with clear boundaries and objectives. This approach carries significant risk, warned Elder Tellin. If the Skarax realize what we are doing, they may accelerate their extermination protocols. That's why timing is crucial, replied Riker. While Major Jackson works with your resistance, our ship will be implementing the second phase of our strategy. The Skarax fleet is vulnerable in ways they don't realize. Lyra studied these strange humans, trying to reconcile their physical fragility with the dangerous confidence they exuded. Everything about them, from their stance to their speech patterns, spoke of creatures accustomed to conflict in ways the Eridani could barely comprehend. "We have no choice but to trust you," she finally said, her skin settling into a pattern of solemn acceptance. "What do you require from us?" High Commander Vexkar stood on a command platform of the Skarax flagship, surveying the holographic representation of the conquest in progress. The operation was proceeding precisely according to schedule. Resistance was crumbling, resource extraction had begun, and the processing of Eridani survivors for labor camps was underway. Another successful acquisition for the Armada, noted Sub-Commander Trask, his mandibles clicking in satisfaction. These Eridani are particularly unsuited for conflict. I've never seen a species capitulate so quickly. Their technology is sophisticated, replied Vexkar, but they lack the warrior instinct. They never had a chance. He gestured to the holographic display. Begin Phase 3 of the operation. I want processing centers established in all major population centers by the next cycle. As you command, High Commander. As Trask moved to relay the orders, an alert sounded from a nearby console. A drone operator turned, antennae twitching in confusion. High Commander, we've lost contact with Outpost 7 in the southern quadrant. Vexkar's compound eyes narrowed slightly. A communications malfunction. Negative, High Commander. We received a partial distress signal before contact was lost. Something about an attack, but the transmission was cut off. The Eridani have no remaining military capacity in that sector, Vexkar said dismissively. Send a drone squadron to investigate. Likely equipment failure or operator error. The interruption was minor, hardly worth noting in the context of the larger operation. Yet within the hour, 3 more outposts went silent. Then a supply convoy disappeared. Then a patrol unit. By the time the first sun set over the Eridani capital, Vexkar was no longer dismissive. Something was happening. Something that didn't fit the established patterns of Eridani resistance. Show me the pattern of these incidents, he commanded. The holographic display updated to show a scatter of red points across the occupied territory. There was no discernible pattern, no clear front line or concentration of force that would indicate a conventional counterattack. What are the Eridani up to? He muttered. Perhaps they had hidden capabilities we were unaware of, suggested Trask. Impossible. Our intelligence was thorough. They have no weapons that can penetrate our armor, no tactics beyond basic defensive formations. Vexkar's mandibles clicked in irritation. Double the patrol density in affected sectors. I want drone coverage increased by 50%. Whatever this is, crush it immediately. Major Jackson crouched in the darkness of an abandoned Eridani dwelling, surrounded by a mix of his own team and local resistance fighters. The Eridani moved awkwardly, uncomfortable with the concepts he was teaching them, but learning nonetheless. Remember, he instructed, you never engage directly. Strike, move, disappear. The goal isn't to win battles, it's to make them afraid of every shadow, to never let them feel secure. An Eridani named Nellin, whose skin constantly shifted between determination and horror at what they were doing, spoke up. But our weapons cannot harm them. How can we strike effectively? Jackson pulled a small device from his pack, one of dozens they have fabricated using Eridani technology combined with human design specifications. You don't need to destroy their armor, he explained. You just need to compromise their environmental systems. He pointed to a schematic of Skarak's battle armor. Their exoskeletons require specific atmospheric conditions. These disruption devices, when attached to their armor, will cause progressive systems failure. Not immediately lethal, but definitely incapacitating. And this is better than killing them outright? Asked another Eridani, confusion evident in the rippling patterns across her skin. Strategically, yes, Jackson confirmed. A dead soldier is just a casualty. But a soldier who suffers a slow, frightening systems failure, who reports that experience to their comrades before losing consciousness, that creates psychological impact. Fear spreads faster than news of casualties. The Eridani were visibly disturbed by this approach, their skin shifting through patterns that reflected their internal conflict. Jackson understood their hesitation. The human concept of psychological warfare was alien to their culture. I know this goes against your nature, he acknowledged. But right now, the Skaraks believe they understand you, that you're predictable and defeated. Our only advantage is showing them something they've never seen before. One by one, the Eridani resistance fighters accepted the disruption devices, their skin gradually settling into patterns of grim resolve. Now, Jackson continued, activating a holographic map of their sector. Let's discuss tonight's targets. On board the Harbinger, Commander Riker reviewed the latest intelligence from Major Jackson's ground team. The first phase of operations was proceeding better than expected. Skarak's patrols were encountering resistance that didn't behave according to their expectations. Hit-and-run attacks from seemingly nowhere, environmental systems failures that spread panic through their ranks, and a growing sense of unease that their intelligence on the Eridani had been woefully incomplete. Their increasing orbital surveillance, reported Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez, deploying additional drones and tightening patrol patterns. As expected, Riker nodded. They're still thinking conventionally that more eyes and more troops will solve the problem. They haven't realized yet that they're fighting a fundamentally different kind of war now. Major Jackson reports that Eridani resistance cells are becoming more effective with each engagement. The psychological impact on Skarak's ground forces has been significant. Good. That's our window for Phase 2. Riker turned to Chief Engineer Petrov. Status of the special packages. Ready for deployment, Commander. We've adapted them to bypass Skarak's security protocols based on the data we've collected. Once installed, we should have access to their entire command and control network. Perfect. Riker's cold smile returned. Prepare the stealth shuttles. It's time to give the Skarak's High Command something new to worry about. High Commander Vexkar's mood had deteriorated with each passing cycle. What had begun as minor disruptions had evolved into a coordinated pattern of harassment that defied conventional tactical analysis. Outposts continued to go dark. Patrols reported attacks from enemies they never saw. And most disturbing of all, soldiers were returning with bizarre systems failures in their battle armor. Failures that spread fear through the ranks as rumors circulated of invisible attackers who could somehow bypass their advanced protection. This defies all logic, he hissed, mandibles clicking rapidly in agitation. The Eridani have no history of such tactics. Their psychology is fundamentally cooperative, not deceptive. Perhaps they are more adaptable than our intelligence suggested, offered Sub-Commander Trask. No species changes its fundamental nature so quickly, Vexkar countered. Something else is happening here. A sensor operator interrupted with urgent tones. High Commander, we're detecting anomalies in the command network. Security protocols are reporting unauthorized access attempts at multiple nodes. Impossible. Our encryption is impenetrable to Eridani technology. Yet even as he spoke, the central holographic display flickered, its image distorting momentarily before resolving into something else. A face appeared, not Eridani, not Skarax, but something entirely unfamiliar. The creature had flat features, opaque skin, and exposed teeth in what Vexcar instinctively recognized as a threat display. "Attention, Skarax command." The creature spoke, its voice translated into perfect Skarax language. "This is Commander Alexis Riker of the United Nations, Spaceship Harbinger. Your invasion of the Eridani homeworld has been deemed an act of aggression against a peaceful species. You are hereby ordered to withdraw your forces immediately or face the consequences." Stunned silence fell over the command center. Vexcar recovered first, his voice rising in outrage. "What manner of deception is this? Identify your species and explain how you accessed this secure channel." The creature's expression didn't change. "We are humans, from Earth. As for how we accessed your secure channel, consider it a demonstration of capabilities. Your systems are now compromised at multiple levels. Your ground forces are in disarray. Your command structure is vulnerable." "Preposterous," spat Vexcar. "One vessel cannot threaten the might of the Skarax Armada. Whatever tricks you've employed, they will not save the Eridani. Our forces control this planet." "Do they?" The human's expression shifted subtly. "Check your tactical displays, High Commander. See how many of your outposts are still responding." Vexcar glanced at the holographic representation of the battlefield. What he saw sent a shock through his system. Nearly 40% of their forward outposts were now showing as non-responsive. "This changes nothing," he declared, though with less certainty than before. "We have overwhelming numerical superiority. Whatever force you represent, you cannot hope to." "This isn't about numbers, High Commander. It's about understanding the nature of your enemy." The human leaned closer to the transmission device. "You came here expecting to fight the Eridani, a peaceful, predictable species. But now you're fighting humans, and humans have been perfecting the art of war against vastly superior forces for thousands of years." The transmission cut abruptly, leaving the command center in uneasy silence. Vexcar's compound eyes darted between his officers, noting the subtle signs of uncertainty in their postures. "Trace that transmission," he ordered. "Find this vessel,